wakes up, the whole dream entire merges into the waker. The dreamer alone was really true. All that he was dreaming is false. He had created that dream. So when he wakes up, he remains, but the dream disappears. Where does it disappear? You can say in him only it disappears. So this Purusha and Prakriti is quite interesting. One who recognizes this Purusha and Prakriti along with all its gunas, gunaihi saha, such a person, though the world may be there, still he might be aware of that world. He might be aware of the body, mind, intellect. Means the awareness of the Prakriti might be there. And different actions and different ways of living might be there. But still that person is free from all this. That Purusha becomes free from the bondage of Prakriti. That is called liberation. Sarvatha vartamanopi nasa bhuyo bhi jayate. So as long as this body and this world is seen, he might be moving in this and living in various ways. Others might see a realized master living in a particular way. So even though he might be seen appearing in this world in various ways, but once the body falls off, he is not born again. Nasa bhuyo bhi jayate. There is no more birth. That is because there is no more identification with the Prakriti. There is no more birth. There is no more punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. There is no more identification with any body. So that is called moksha. This is called liberation. So when the body is there and the world is experienced, that realized master is called Jivan Mukta, liberated while alive. And once the body falls off, is called Videha Mukta. Videha Mukta, liberated even when the body is dropped. So ya evam vetti purusham prakritincha gunaisaha sarvatha vartamanopi nasa bhuyo bijayate. So the whole thing boils down to recognizing this Purusha, which is that pure I am. So shifting all our attention from everything else, we have to focus our attention on this, my own being, and directly experience it. It's called aparoksha anubhuti. It doesn't require any media to experience it. It doesn't require anything else to experience it. See, if I want to use my senses to know, then there is a media, like I want to see this flower, I have to use my eyes to see it. So many conditions are there. The flower, the light, the eyes, the mind, then only the experience of seeing it is possible. But my own being, experience of my own existence, no eyes, no mind, nothing is required. That being is aware of itself. That Purusha can be aware of itself. Purusha is not only aware of the Prakriti, but Purusha can be aware of itself. I not only see what I am seeing in front of me, but I can also become aware of the seer. The seer is aware of itself. So when that Purusha comes to recognize itself as it is, there is liberation. There is freedom. So this is our ultimate goal, to recognize ourselves. Now the question is that what are the ways and means by which we can recognize our own self? See, this chapter is complete in itself. It not only shows us the path, the goal, and describes the whole thing very beautifully, but it also shows us the path. So now in the following verse, Bhagavan tells us how we can recognize our own self. Dhyanenatmani pashyanti केचिदात्मानमात्मना अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे. भगवान सेज कि केचिद few seekers ध्यानेन आत्मनि पश्यन्ति आत्मानम आत्मना. They come to recognize, they come to see their own self through dhyana, through meditation. Now, what is meditation we will see. But one path is that through dhyana they come to see their own self. Atmanam pashyanti. Where do they see their self? Atmani, in their own self. With what do they see their self? Atmana, with their self. In the beginning, one uses one's intellect, which is also one identifies and looks at it as self. So, with the help of the intellect, in the cave of our heart, we come to recognize our own self. But once that self is recognized, the self is recognized by the self, in the self. So the self is recognized by the self and in the self. Atmani, Atmanam, Atmana Pashyanti. They see Atmanam, the self, Atmana, by the self, Atmani, in the self. No other thing is required. And this is the method of dhyana. So how is it? In the beginning, actually, as I said, one may take support, but then all the support drops and only the self alone remains. And for this dhyana means attention, paying attention, becoming aware of, that's called dhyana. For example, if I tell you pay attention on my thumb, right hand thumb, you can see it moving, nicely it moves. See. Now pay attention to the thumb only, not to the fingers. Fingers might try to distract you, but you have to pay attention to the thumb. Now there might be some people who may not know what is the meaning of thumb. Quite possible. And if you don't know the meaning of thumb, this whole exercise will be meaningless. Similarly, meditation means paying attention to the self. Just imagine thumb is the self. But if you don't know what is the self, you might be looking at something else only in the name of meditation. But self, you don't have to worry about by-hearting or studying all the scriptures and all those things. The self is experienced in our whole system as I. Ma'am, in whatever language, my, I, me, how, hami, different language, I. My own is very strange actually, it's the most strangest thing that there is a feeling of I. It's very strange. Means it is so different from everything else. Nobody has taught us, but it is there. It is totally different from any nothing in this world can be called I. Though we call it because of our attachment and identification, but this I is something very special. So if we close our eyes and just try to feel our presence, we feel our own presence. But in the beginning, we will feel our presence at the level of the body. Body exists and we feel I am. But if we focus our attention on our own presence, we will understand that it is something subtler than the body. It is something subtler than even our body. It is even subtler than our mind. So I am, मैं हूँ, I am. So focusing our attention on this I am and holding on to it itself is dhyana. Dhyana is to withdraw all our attention from everything else, from the objects of the senses, from the objects of the mind, and focusing it on the self. Yato yato nischarati manaschanchala astiram tatastato niyamye tata atmani eva vasham nayet. In 6th chapter also Bhagavan says, wherever your mind runs and attention runs, bring it from there and focus your attention on this I, Atma. You don't have to know anything else. If you are experiencing I am, then you can meditate. If you are experiencing two I's in yourself, then there is a problem. But that we don't normally. So I am, and just hold on to that. It might look simple, but it might take lot of patience and time to hold on to that pure I. It will become more and more sharp. It's like threading the needle. The needle is there, and there is a nice little hole in that needle, eye of the needle. And you have a nice thread, sharp. You have to put it in. Lot of places are there where you can put the thread, which is not exactly the eye of the needle. Grandmother and all, they put and then try to pull in the whole needle and say, they tried. So only at one point it goes exactly in the eye. Similarly, we have to fine tune our experience of our own being. At present, it is not fine tuned. It is vague and gross. It's like a big canvas is there, or a big what they call the haystack, and the needle is there inside. If you are looking at the entire haystack, also you are looking at the needle only, but not exactly at the needle. So you have to remove all the other thing and focus your attention on that. So that is called dhyana. It is the practice, it is the sadhana of attention, of using your awareness, consciousness. Become conscious of the consciousness itself. Become conscious of the consciousness. It's like, suppose I tell you that you look at the flower. Very, very easy to look at the flower. But suppose I tell you, become conscious of that. Become conscious of your eye, which is looking at the flower. It is a different game altogether. It is like shifting your attention suddenly at a different place altogether. You are looking at the flower, so you know that there is an eye. So just Similarly, when everyone uses the word I. Without experiencing I, there is no other experience in the world. You cannot experience the world or anything without experiencing your own being. But that my own being is not fine-tuned. It is mixed up with body, mind, senses, thoughts, emotion, ideas, concepts, so many things are there. So just drop all the concepts. All concepts are made up of thoughts and all. So we are not interested in knowing about the self. We are interested in just paying attention to the self. Scriptures describe or talk about the self. So if you learn lot of scriptures, you will know lot of things about the self. We are not interested in knowing about the self. We are interested in knowing the self itself. Even a child has got the experience of I am. So just hold on to this experience. And this I am is not the ego which constantly changes, but it is something much subtler than the ego, which exists even when the body changes, mind changes, everything changes. So holding on to that I am is called dhyana. So kechit, very rare few, because this requires tremendous patience, tremendous attention, and total vairagya from everything else. This should be like 100% activity. Baki kuch nahi. No other agenda. Only single pointed agenda if we have, then this is the direct path. If we have any other agenda, then another path Bhagavan is telling. So dhyan, we fail to meditate, or it becomes difficult for us to meditate when we are not clear about I or Purusha and Prakriti, about Kshetrajna and Kshetra. In the name of meditation, we might be looking at some portion of Kshetra only. So the second path which Bhagavan is talking about is discrimination between the Kshetra and Kshetrajna, between the Purusha and Prakriti. That is called Sankhya. Sankhya is to understand that I am the witness and this is all witnessed by me. So the body, the mind, the intellect, the senses, the gross 5 elements, all of them, these 24 tattvas, all of them are kshetra, and other than that, I am the kshetrajna. To use the power of discrimination, to use the intellect to comprehend the nature of the self and that which is not the self. So that path, intellectual discrimination between the self and not self, between the Purusha and Prakriti, is called Sankhya here. So Anne Sankhena Yogena, that's called Sankhya Yoga. So when we do this discrimination, it helps us to understand this Purusha. So once we are clear about it, then we can jump into that higher sadhana of meditation, just focusing our attention on this Purusha. But whenever we get distracted, we are distracted only by Prakriti. Understand that this is all that is seen. It is not the Purusha. It is changing. It is anitya. So again shift the attention to the Purusha and focus on the Purusha. It's like you are told to focus your attention on a particular star. Lots of stars are there, so suddenly we get distracted.